Hello and good evening students, and welcome back to Global Online Platform. This is Chandni Swarnakar, and today we are heading to cover Walter Scott. Okay, so today's target is Walter Scott, of course. Now you can get my lecture at 6 p.m. on a daily basis. वीडियो में आगे बढ़ने से पहले मैं आपको बता देती हूँ, जून 2024 में JRF लेने के लिए स्मार्ट प्रिपरेशन करने की ज़रूरत है। उसके लिए आपको फुल सिलेबस वीडियो लेक्चर्स मिलेंगे ग्लोबल ऑनलाइन की तरफ से, जिसमें आपको शॉर्ट एंड स्मार्ट ट्रिक के साथ आपके सारे कॉन्सेप्ट क्लियर हो जाएंगे। उसके साथ ही आपको फुल सिलेबस नोट्स PDF फॉर्मेट में अवेल कराया जाएगा, जिसे आप अपने मोबाइल लैपटॉप में डाउनलोड करके ईजिली पढ़ सकते हैं। उसके साथ ही आपको फुल सिलेबस मॉक टेस्ट मिलेंगे, जिसे एज इट इज क्वेश्चन एग्जाम में पूछे जाते हैं। ये मॉक टेस्ट आपके फाइनल प्रिपरेशन में बहुत हेल्प करता है, तो गिवन कॉन्टैक्ट नंबर पर कॉन्टैक्ट करके आप इसे ज्वाइन कर सकते हो। और इस सबसे अच्छी बात इस कोर्स की ये है दैट यू आर गोइंग टू गेट कंप्लीट पेपर 1 कोर्स फॉर फ्री। So if you are interested, you can always think about it. Now free videos के एक्सेस के लिए ग्लोबल ऑनलाइन ऐप को आप डाउनलोड कर सकते हो। स्टोर सेक्शन पे जाओगे, आपके सारे कोर्सेज की जानकारी यहाँ से मिल जाएगी। कोर्स का नाम लिखोगे तो कोर्स का ओवरव्यू आपके सामने आ जाएगा, इसकी ड्यूरेशन, इसकी फीस, हर चीज़ जो है आपको मिल जाएगी। नाउ कंटेंट सेक्शन पे क्लिक करते हो तो यूनिट वाइज जो है आपको फोल्डर्स अवेलेबल मिलेंगे। हर एक यूनिट में थ्योरी लेक्चर्स, इवैल्यूएशन, नोट्स, मॉक टेस्ट एंड MCQs आपको मिलेंगे। इसके अलावा आपको कुछ भी पढ़ने की ज़रूरत नहीं है। उसके साथ ही अगर आप ग्लोबल ऑनलाइन पेड कोर्स को ज्वाइन करते हो तो आपको व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में भी ऐड किया जाएगा, जहाँ पे हर एक सेशन की PDF आप लोगों के साथ में प्रोवाइड करवाई जाएगी। ओके, नाउ लेट्स स्टार्ट विद टुडेज लेक्चर व्हिच इज ऑफ कोर्स आवर मेन or major target for today. Now let's talk about Walter Scott first. So of course lifespan is important because Walter Scott is important, right? So 1771 to 1832 is the lifespan, the whole duration of his life. Okay, so 1771 to 1832, do remember. And he's not a British writer, do remember this. Now I have just told you that Walter Scott is not a British writer, he is a Scottish writer. Do remember this, okay? Now he actually contributed in different genres. For example, novels is there, poems and history books, okay? Of course, these books are still in people's mind and they are loving it, right? Still, because of that only we are reading about it. Some of the very famous novels of Walter Scott's that we need to cover today includes Ivanhoe, Rob Roy, Waverley, Old Mortality, The Heart of Mid-Lothian, and The Bride of Lammermoor. Excluding that, we are also going to talk about some narrative poems like Murmium or The Lady of the Lake. Okay, and basically his works were so good that not only Scotland, Europe and America was also very much influenced by these works. Okay, so because of that he got very famous, and you will also see some influences of his works. Okay, now apart from the writing career he had, okay, he was also a lawyer and a judge. So because of those lawyer and judge career, he also knew some of the legal authorities, legal rules and all. So you can also see those things in his works. While he had a busy legal career, he managed to write and edit his work. So if you are very much into that mindset that, okay, I'm busy with my work, I don't have much time to write and edit whatever I love. It's not about only writing. If you are into something, like if you're very passionate about something and you are just giving excuses that, okay, I don't have much time, because of that I am not able to do this. So this is something you need to be aware of, because he was also busy with his legal career, but still he managed to write and edit his books. Okay, so do remember, this is a lesson that you can learn from. Now more of it, we can also talk about the political area that he was in. He was actually belonging to the Tory party. Okay, and he held important positions in Edinburgh's political and social circles. So because of that, he was also belonging to the Tory party. Because of that, he also wrote history works, like he also created a genre, historical novel genre, which became very popular during the Romantic period. Scott had deep knowledge of history. Okay, and he was involved in various societies, like including the Highland Society and the Royal Society of Edinburgh. So these are some of the things that you need to catch, because if you're reading the works of Walter Scott, you have to know some of the things so that you can relate yourself to the works, okay, and you can relate his life to the works. So that is the basic information about Walter Scott. Let's cover the works. Now, one more thing, he was also given the title of Baronet of Abbotsford in Scotland. Do remember, he was given the title of Baronet of Abbotsford in Scotland in 1820. Okay, so this is the whole information. Now let's cover the works. First and foremost work is Ivanhoe, Colin a Romance. Ivanhoe, Colin a Romance. And I must tell you, Waverley Novels is very famous of Walter Scott, as I have already mentioned. So it's a part of, okay, published as a part of the Waverley Novels. Ivanhoe, Colin a Romance was a part of Waverley Novels. 1819 was the publishing year. Now it represents a departure from Scott's previous work set in Scotland and recent times. Okay, so it was a kind of departure of that. Now, it's a most famous work and impactful novel because of themes, because of the content, because of the context. Okay. Now, set in medieval England, featuring tournaments, outlaws, witch trials, conflicts between Jews and Christians, Normans and sections. So these are the things that he was talking about. Features were there. Okay. So he's set in medieval England. So he basically is not talking about the contemporary time of his contemporary time, because our contemporary time is different. Now set in medieval England, featuring tournaments, outlaws, witch trials, conflicts between Jews and Christian, Normans and sections. Now more of it basically inspired greater interest in chivalric romance and medievalism, according to Thomas Carlyle, John Ruskin and John Henry Newman. Okay, so he was actually very much interested in chivalric romance and medievalism. That is why you can see that Ivanhoe is basically set in medieval England. Okay, now John Newman, I hope you all know, he actually said about Walter Scott. Scott had first turned men's minds in the direction of the Middle Ages, because he was actually talking about Middle Ages. Everyone was talking about Romantic Age, he was talking about Middle Ages. Okay, so you can see that in Ivanhoe he started talking about it. Now he influenced how people viewed historical figures like King Richard the Lionheart, Prince John and Robin Hood. So he actually influenced that, how people used to see it, historical figures. Now because of his perception, because of his work, people started taking it in a different perspective. Okay, now this is the whole thing that we can say about Ivanhoe. More of it I don't think you need to cover a lot about it. Second work is Rob Roy, which was actually a work of 1817. It's also a part of Waverley Novels. Do remember that. How many works are a part of Waverley Novels, you need to know. And it was actually likely set around 1715, to remember, during the Second Jacobite Rising, with the social and economic context playing a crucial role. So you can see the background is Jacobite Rising and its social and economic context playing a crucial role in the play. Okay, not the play, of course, it's a novel, right? The novel doesn't directly address the historical events of the time. Okay, directly he's not like, it's not directly addressing those historical events, but indirectly, of course, writers does not most of the time take it very non-allegorically. Okay, there will be allegorical or allegory in the way of narrating. Now, according to critics, the portrayal of Rob Roy differs greatly from the real person. So critics actually said that, as stated, there are two Rob Roys, one lived and breathed, the other is a good story, a lively tale set in the past. Both may be accepted as valid, but they serve different needs and interests. Okay, what it says, there are two Rob Roys, one lived and breathed, the other is a good story, is a lively tale set in the past. Both may be accepted as valid, but they serve different needs and interests. Okay, so critics actually said that the portrayal of Rob Roy and the real person have vary. Okay, now let's talk about the story. like in this story you can see the old school story kind of thing, because I think in Bollywood you must have seen such stories. Like there's a character, okay, Frank Osbaldiston, like Osbaldiston. How it's very difficult. Okay, so let's call it Frank. So basically, Frank is narrating the story, and he's a son of English merchants. Frank has a very different beliefs and personality. Okay, like in terms of their family's beliefs and personality was very different from Frank. So because of that, of course, contradictions, oppositions, rebellions are there. Okay, so his father sends him to live with his uncle in their family home near the Scottish border after Frank refuses to join the family business. So of course Frank's personality and beliefs were different, so Frank refused the offer to join the family business. So after returning, like somebody deceitful, there's a cousin of Frank's cousin, Resli, actually joins the business, and he ditched everyone there, and at the end Frank travels to Scotland and encounters the legendary figure Rob Roy McGregor. So he will fix everything, and the things around, like something happened to their family and son came and just things turned out good. This is the whole story. Okay, so you can see the very old type of story, but it was an earlier story, so it's a classic one. People are actually, we can say, copying it. Now the third work is Weberly, 1814. Of course, all of the works are a part of Weberly, and the Weberly we are going to talk about. So Weberly, or it is 60 years since. It's a historical novel, do remember that. And it actually his first attempt. Okay, Weberly was a first attempt at prose fiction. So he was not actually writing prose fiction earlier. So he wrote it in 1814. Novel was published anonymously, so there was no author's name there. It's considered one of the earliest historical novels in Western literature. So do remember that it's considered one of the earliest historical novels. So if they'll ask, and the option will be Weberly, like one option they could consider Weberly, so you can choose that. Now Edward Weberly, a young Englishman, joins a Scottish army units just before rebellion in 1745. Okay, so the whole story I'm going to tell you. He visits a family friend, Baron Bradwardine, who supposed the exiled Jacobite prince Charles Edward Stuart. Okay, now you can read it once again if you're not getting the content. Okay, so I'm not going to tell you all of it. You need to also do some work. Now Weberly faces a dilemma: loyalty to the crown or sympathy for the Jacobites' cause. So there's a confusion. Of course, every time we face confusion, so he's also facing the confusion whether to support the crown, the king basically, or he can sympathize with the Jacobites' cause. Okay, so there's a confusion. Now there is also mention of his friend, family friend, Baron Bradwardine, and it's a historical one, so the background is of Jacobite rising. His honorable behavior earns him friends on both sides during the conflict. So it's like a political party favoring both the sides and getting benefits. This friendship proved beneficial when the Jacobites are defeated. So this actually benefited this friendships benefited Weberly. Okay, at the end, when Jacobites are defeated. So this is you can read if you are very interested in. I would not suggest that you should read it. Just remember that Walter Scott wrote a work, Weberly, and some of the information that I have told you just now. Okay. Now the fourth work is All Morality. The story is set in southwest Scotland. Okay, do remember the setting. It covers the time of the Covenanters, focusing on events like the Battle of Drumclog and the defeat at Bothwell Bridge in 1679. It's very factual, so I won't suggest that you need to know. Just know that there's also a section set in 1689 during the Royalist defeat at Killiecrankie. Do remember this point, and also one of very important. originally titled, okay, so original title you need to remember, The Tale of Old Mortality. It's often referred to simply as Old Mortality now, okay. So The Tale of Old Mortality is the original title. So if they'll give you, don't get confused that, okay, who wrote this work, okay, don't be like that. Now let's cover the fifth work, The Heart of Mid-Lothian. So I think it's the last work, no, not the last work, second last work we are going to cover. So it was first published in July 1818 under the title Tales of My Landlord, its second series, and attributed to the fictional character named Jedediah Cleshbotham, okay. So it's a fictional character and actually attributed to a fictional character named Jedediah Cleshbotham, okay. So here you need to remember that it was published in 1818 and that it was actually published under the title Tales of My Landlord. One more thing, do remember the setting, story setting, okay. So it was during the Porteous Riots in Edinburgh in 1736 to 1737 during the Porteous Riots. This is the setting of this work, okay. Now see, it actually follows a young working class girl's journey, okay, and basically her sister got arrested and sentenced to death for illegally killing her newborn. So basically the girl was actually asking for clemency, because it actually means forgiveness, okay, so that a sister can come out of the jail or can be saved. Now, despite some initial criticism, many now regard it as Scott's finest work. Of course, there are initial criticism are there, but still some of scholars or people considered it as Scott's finest work, because it's a very good story where a young girl is asking for clemency, to seek clemency for her sister, who is actually sentenced to death for illegally killing her newborn. Okay, so it's a kind of a good story, I feel. Now the last work is, we have covered the second last, so we are going to cover the last one, The Bride of Lammermoor, 1819. Okay, 1819 is the publishing year. Now it sets in the Lammermoor Hills, so somehow it's very connected to the title of Scotland, just before or after the Act of Union in 1777. So 1707. So it's like the background, you can see the Act of Union in 1707, somewhere before or after it is set. So the story revolves around a tragic love affair between Lucy Aston and Edgar Ravenswood. Okay, so there are a tragic love affair is going on. So the main characters, Lucy and Edgar. So who are from where? Feuding families. Okay, so feuding families they are from. Now Scott suggested that the plot was inspired by a real life event, and I don't know why it's a tragic one. You need to find out. It's a very interesting thing to find out. Okay, initially published anonymously as part of Scott's Tales of My Landlord series. So I have already mentioned that it later became known as one of his notable works. So it was initially published anonymously as part of Scott's Tales of My Landlord series, but later it became a very famous and notable works of Walter Scott. Okay, this is the whole thing that we have covered today. So just remember some of the details that I have mentioned. You don't need to go very deep with these works. Okay, so The Bride of Lammermoor, The Heart of Mid-Lothian, Old Morality, it's not, yeah, Old Morality, and the original title is The Tale of Old Mortality. It's actually Old Mortality. Okay, so you can check here, you can correct this. Now the Waverley, then we have covered Rob Roy, Ivanhoe. As I have already mentioned that we will cover Mermion and the Lady of the Lake, so just need to remember the titles of these works. Okay, and except this we haven't covered some of them, so you can read it out. Okay, now we have covered today's lecture. We'll meet in the next lecture. Thank you very much and all the very best.